All right, so we're going to talk about installing an Avimore fence. And so to install an Avimore fence, it's going to be just like most any other fence. You're going to start with a post, put the post in the ground. And so if you haven't seen my video about the Avimore components, I'd recommend checking that out. And then, but if you know what the components are, they should all make sense to you. And just show you. So I've pretty much taken, just for this little display in our office here, I've taken our Avimore H post. I actually took one of our plated ones and mounted it to just a little wood base so I could, for the training purposes. But this H post, what you'd want to start doing on the install is obviously just true to form of any fence. You want to go set your terminal posts, figure out your centers that you're going to use, and then set your posts based on those centers. If you're looking to do no-cut installs, you would need to take into consideration the fact that this post has, basically, you're going to want that rail to go all the way into the bottom of that post. And so if you're using the 64-inch rail, because of the 1/4-inch bridge in this post, you're going to want to take that into consideration. So your post centers would end up being about 64 1/4 if you want to do a no-cut install. Now if you're going to go through and evenly space your posts and come up with whatever measurement between those, and then you're going to go down and trim your sections, you're going to want to make sure that your posts obviously are less than your 64 inches if you're going horizontally, or roughly 72 inches if you're going vertically. And then you're going to want to take a measurement from the bottom of the channel on one post to the bottom of the channel on the other post. And with the bottom of the channel to the bottom of the channel, you should come up with a measurement that, you can have up to about a 1/2 inch of leeway if you're using the 2-inch bracket. Actually, probably a little bit more than that if you're using not the 2-inch bracket, the 2-hole bracket. But anyway, you want to cut your rails in a pair to match that channel. So you just want to ensure that no matter what, if you have this all the way in on one side, you still have insertion on the other side, or vice versa. That will keep this rail from coming out and never giving you any issues. So once you get your posts set with your centers that you desire on them, the next thing you need to make sure is your height. We recommend using setting the post 4 inches higher out of the ground than what the body of your fence is going to be. Now, the body of your fence will be determined by the material you decide to use, the orientation of that material, whether you'll be trimming that material or not. All those go into play as you're calculating the body of your fence. And there's too many variations for me to go through and really talk about them all. But if you do have any questions on how to calculate that body, feel free to reach out to me, and it's just a simple explanation for whatever style you're using. But once you determine the body of your fence, I would set your posts to be 4 inches taller than what that body is. And the theory behind that is you'd have 2 inches below your bottom rail to the ground. You'd have 2 inches above your top rail to the top of the post. And that's the by the book install. Now, some people like to have that bottom rail flush with the ground or real close to it. If you're one of those people that like to do that, just make the adjustments as you see fit for how you normally like to install. So with this, once those posts are set, once you have your spacing set, once you have your height set, once you know your body, you'll want to next go through and install the post accessories. So I'm going to use our gap filler first. So let's say this post is going to be an end post, and as an end post, I don't want to see this channel. So if I don't want to see this channel, basically I'd set this gap filler in there, and then it should slide in and clip into place. And then once you put your cap on that post, you can even get those. You can even set those in your post before you put them in the ground. They do have a little bit extra length that could go in the ground if you need. And once you have the cap on and that in the ground, nobody's going to pop it out. It'll be there forever. Then if you have any gate posts or corner posts, you're going to need to mount, gate end posts or corner posts, you're going to need to mount a U-channel. Now this U-channel basically matches the width of your post channel, which allows the rail, like I said, the rail would fit inside your post channel, but if this is going to be a corner, the rail would also fit inside that U-channel. And then in the U-channel, we just plan on screwing it off. So just plan on putting a screw in the side of that from the outside. And that's how you do that. So when you install your U-channel, you'd want to know what the top of your section is going to be. And I would plan on having that U-channel flush with the top of that rail. And I believe that's what gives the best install. Now on this one, once you have your post set, if this is going to be a corner post, it as well would have a gap filler in there. And so like I said, you can just clip those in. Sometimes you just push them in. Maybe you need a little rubber mallet. But again, that would be the configuration of your corner post. One thing to mention on the U-channel, because of this rib in the middle of the post, you do want to avoid running your screws in your U-channel directly in line with that rib. And so if you just want to make sure that they're offset slightly. Now if this is going to be a corner post, I like to offset it toward where the gap filler is going to be. That way it does not interfere with the channel I'm going to be sliding material through. Okay, so posts are set, height set, your accessories are installed, your U-channels and your gap fillers. Now in order to do this section, we are going to need to set our bottom brackets. So again, referring to the body of the fence that you're desiring, and if you're planning on having the 2 inches above, you basically take your body plus 2 inches, and then you'd want to measure that out to set your bottom bracket. And that bottom bracket, using the 2-hole bracket, would install like so. And then we just have 1-inch self-tap screws into each one of these holes, and then that creates a little bit of a shelf down inside that post. What that ends up doing is when you set the rail in there, that gives you basically, it's almost an inch of play from the bottom of that channel to the edge of that bracket. And because of that, that actually gives you about 3/4. You could do about 3/4 of play on your material, and it would sit in there and be just fine. So once those are set on both sides, and here, I'm just gonna say this for now. When we built the system, we had planned on it just being stepped and having square connections, but we have had installers actually show us it can be racked. So if you did want to cut a taper on your material, you can roll these with the hills. And there are some pictures in our photo gallery on our website that you can see where that's been done, and it actually looks pretty sharp. So, but once you determine where those brackets need to be, whether they're going to be level or whether you're going to be rolling your fence with the hills, you just go through and slide in your material. And so you slide that down, set it on there, and bottom channel's in. The rest of this is really quite simple. If we were, like I said, if you were using the Avimore Modern, where we're using a pocket rail on the bottom, then we're just going to start taking our material and sliding it in. So I'm just going to do that real quick with a handful of these these slats. This isn't a very big section, just for display purposes, but you'd stack these in whatever material you decide to use for whatever height you decide to put it in. I personally like these Elite boards the best because, as you can see, they just, if they're the right dimension, and they will just slide right in, interlock with each other. And I'm just gonna go that high with this section. And as you can see, it's really a beautiful fence. And if that's as tall as I'm going with that, if I'm doing a no-cut install, which I prefer to do on these, we go through, set in your top rail, bottom rail, and if that's where I was gonna finish this fence, I would take another one of our 2-hole brackets and I would tie it off. I'd screw it in there on the top rail, on both sides, and that would be that, and to be ready to go. Just throw the cap on and you'd be done. But for display purposes, I'm actually going to show modern on the bottom and breeze on top. So with this remaining space, I actually want to install a few of our breeze pickets. And so again, the trimming on the breeze pickets is going to follow the same rules as the rails. But as far as brackets go, on this one I'm going to use the cube bracket. So on the cube bracket, I'm just going to slide them down both sides. Then we will take your your picket, slide that in there, and then you just repeat. So the bracket slides in the channel, again, like so. Then you put in your next picket. Then on this one, set this up to run with 3 pickets. So we'll take this, and again, like this. So this fence section came out to be, had some modern on the bottom with the Elite boards, the 1 3/8 space between the breeze pickets, and that's what it came out to be. If this were a fence that I was going to leave installed somewhere, again, I would throw that 2-hole bracket on here. I didn't leave these posts long enough to actually finish this, just because I used some scrap things that we had miscut earlier. But anyway, once this is in, our post cap, just an aluminum post cap, actually pressure fits onto here. So kind of get it started, tap it into place. Some people like to use a rubber mallet, just to do some fine taps on it, but they get on there, and once they're on, they don't really want to come off. You can get them off, but it'd take a little bit extra work and maybe something to help hit up on the edges. But the pressure fit on there is nice and strong. When that's in, that's what this section would end up looking like. So it's nothing real complicated. But if you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out.